So I wanted to this is a cry or a call out for any men today that are watching this video and have witnessed, certainly as I have, the change in what some of the younger men that I'm being introduced to through family and friends. I'm talking about the boyfriends of some of my nephews or nieces, rather, I should say, but it can be nephews as well. We don't discriminate. And the change that I saw when going through my Special Forces application and looking at the British military and how their attitudes to intake processes have changed, and looking at conversations I've had with firefighters, with police officers, with ex-Marines, with also just people that are generally in my community. And I felt that I must make this video to at least give my perspectives on what I think it means to be a strong man today, especially in a day and age where there's I mean, if you watch anything by Jordan Peterson, if you look at anything that relates to toxic masculinity, about incels, about anything that's happening today with the state of the modern man, and also to some degree why some people attribute that towards one of the reasons for why people look towards, for example, Islam as being a religion with clear principles and values. I think there's a lot we can take away from what's happening in community at large, and I see it in multiple countries as well. By the way, I live in Italy, and when I talk about my nephews and nieces, I talk about both on the British side in central London, and I also look at the men that I'm getting exposed to in countryside Italy, as well as family that I see in developing economies, my family being from India. So it's been interesting to plot this exposure that I have, as well as this transition that I'm seeing. I'm 38 years old this year, and thinking about the values that I grew up with, the values that are changing, and what has been lost. And frankly, to a decent degree, how pissed off I am at seeing the desecration, I think, of certain aspects, not all aspects, because there's a lot that I think is wrong with the traditional archetype of what some people think I mean when we talk about being a modern strong man, or what people think I might mean when they think about, are you going to go on some kind of Andrew Tate rant and just talk about the things that he attributes towards what ultimately being a strong man looks like? And I want to offer my perspective on what I think is important. So if you watch any of my videos, there's four things that I do come up as themes in terms of areas in people's lives. And I want to be very practical when I talk about some of these concepts today, because there's general principles, and from principles we can then from those ascribe specific ultimately outcomes, objectives, and tasks, and what that looks like. And I want to relate it to the four areas that I think are prevalent in people's lives. And I talk about them as being everyone's got their own garden, meaning that the things that you are exposed to and the things that you do in your own life. And within your garden, you've got four trees. And I talk about health, I talk about wealth, I talk about self, and I talk about everyone else. These are the four areas. Now, I think there's been a huge dilution of what's acceptable. I think when I talk about dilution, I talk about dilution of standards. I think that there's been a softening, especially with the advent of technology, of things being done for us. I think a lot of kind of some of the senses of when I look at certain attributes that my father had that have been frankly lost, and that we've got a lot of soft people that exist in today's society, and also at times irrespective of age. Okay, so it's not the case that I just see it in 17-year-olds. I see it in 57-year-olds. I see it in 35-year-olds. So it's not singularly related to people of a certain generation. I think it does transcend that, and it does speak to specific values. So one of the things that I'll talk about that really frustrated me, and where to a degree this stemmed from, was that I was at a dinner table party, and I was looking across at my niece, and I was looking across at her boyfriend, and they're both in their mid-20s, and I hadn't seen him, the boyfriend, for a couple of months, and I noticed that he was 25 years old and that he had a protruding stomach, and that frankly pissed me the fuck off. Now, it pissed me the fuck off because I think one of the values of strong men is that we must take care of our own actual physical health, irrespective of our age. I think that's super fucking important for multiple reasons. And I think it's unacceptable for any man to have anything less than a good physical body, which then relates to good physical health, which relates to less illness, less weakness, more ability to lift up your kids, to go out running with your boys, to be there and to be present and to be physically active in the lives of the people that you love. And I've seen a direct correlation between people that are poor of body that are also poor of mind and poor of spirit, because they don't have the discipline to take care of diet, the discipline to be intentional about what they put in their body, the discipline to therefore be intentional with the notion of hard work. Because there's often a direct approximation between, well, how hard do you work to take care of your body and how hard do you work at work? It pisses me the fuck off especially when I see young people that don't fucking take care of themselves, okay? There's no reason why a man shouldn't have, and practically now, because I talked about, there's no reason why any man should be overweight. Now, people will talk about genetics or diet or I've got big bones or all of this fucking nonsense. I call it nonsense because it's weakness of mind. You can be a man and you can have a body fat percentage that allows you to ultimately have something that resembles a six-pack all the way up to your 60s. It's just about maintaining a body fat that probably hovers around anything. 12 is really good, but anything from 12 to 18%. Now, to achieve that, it means certain things. It means no Oreo milkshakes on a fucking Friday. It means no ultimately takeaway on a Wednesday night. It does mean certain sacrifices. But if you are a man, you need to be in good physical shape, because you also need to, and this is where part of some of Andrew Tate's teachings come in, you need to be able to physically defend your family. You need to be able to go out with your boys, or your boys meaning, I mean your children, female, male, it doesn't matter. I mean family, and be able to run in the park and to do these things. Now, that's the first area when it comes to health. It's a practical thing, but I literally get super annoyed when I see people that are out of shape. And there's always, almost always, a direct correlation between inactive people and people that aren't succeeding in their lives and careers. In all of the examples I have in my circle, when I think about people that have a middling body, that have middling careers as well, because they just don't develop the discipline to do the 5K run on a Saturday morning, or to say no to alcohol on the Saturday or on the Friday night. So nothing exists in isolation. Nothing exists in isolation. Okay. So that relates to the health bucket. Now, the next level, if you want to become a superior man, and this is where, again, I am beginning more and more as I get older, ironically, to operate with a little bit more bias. I prefer to be amongst men who compete in some kind of physical discipline, because I know the discipline that requires. I'm not talking about competing and being pole position. I mean just participating. Enter a 10K run, enter a CrossFit event, be part of a basketball team, be part of a football team, have some demonstration of discipline to physical commitment, to physical health, because I'm not a believer in physical health for the sake of aesthetics. I ain't out here to build a beach body because I care about what women think about me when I fucking walk past them. I don't give a shit about that. Your body and your health should be, or the way that you look should be, secondary to the primary function of being healthy. The primary function of being healthy, I think, is being able, as you travel through life, to be there for your family and to have the health to not get ill, to not be unwell, to turn up every day, to show up at work for your family, for everything. And a secondary advantage, the second advantage is so that you can compete in disciplines. We are men, we are competitive. It's Darwinian, it's evolutionary. So enter events, be fucking part of it. That's something that I think relates more to the exceptional man. I do believe that. That's where I see people that compete in high level disciplines just to participate, whatever it might be. For me, that's ultra running. That's where I choose to build a body for that function. And also because of all of the health benefits and the cognitive benefits that I do get from that, because of the discipline it requires, and because of the sacrifice it requires, and because of the planning it requires. And of course, it bleeds into everything else. But at the very minimum, don't be fucking fat. Please, I say it, and I know that I'll upset some people when I say it, but don't be fucking fat. It's just fucking laziness. It pisses me the fuck off. And I physically find that I do not want to be around such people because I think poor of body, poor of mind. And it's almost always the case because people don't level up. And read the fucking books, bro. Have the discipline to not eat fucking shit food. It ain't that fucking hard. But that tells me a lot about the kind of person that you are. And if you are young and you are like that, that's where I have the OMFG moment, because it's almost like you're fighting against your metabolic health. It's like you're designed to be slim, bro, at fucking 22. Your metabolism works for you. You've had to put in a direct investment to become a fucking fatty. It's just crazy for me. And of course, these things are tailwinds in your life. The more you get on top of it, the more you'll benefit as the years go by, because people talk about reversals. And it's possible. Rich Rolls within the ultra running community is a good example of someone who did a reversal where he was overweight and depressed and turned his life around at 40. But the body fucking remembers. It's not like you can smoke for 30 years and then there's no semblance of it in your later life. The body remembers. There's a bit of a misnomer when people talk about, oh, I can just reverse everything and leave no trace. It's better just to begin with a standard of excellence when it comes to health and commit to it. So I am passionate about it. I've become more passionate about it, and I've become less accepting of people that don't commit to that standard, because I think it's a reflection of the kind of person that man is. So that for me is, when I think of health, that's what's really important to me. Now I want to talk about the second tree in your garden, which is self. Self, I really get frustrated with people that have a big fucking ego. It's just so unattractive to me. So the opposite of having an ego, or what is having an ego, is boasting about your achievements in a way that's unnecessary, because you ain't that fucking good, bro. And there's always someone out there that's 100 times better for you. The people that are good talk about themselves. People that are great will be spoken about by others. And all of the people that are great never talk about their own achievements, or only talk about their achievements in a very, very specific way to either inspire others, but not from a position of ego or arrogance. I detest ego. There's no need to unnecessarily speak about any accomplishments, because you know what? There's someone out there who's bigger and badder than you that's speaking less than you about what they're doing. And you'll find the most successful people are the most humble with the way that they approach things, because success can speak for itself. And the opposite of ego is humility, is having the humility to accept that there are things that I still need to learn, having the humility to appreciate that there are still mountains in life that I have to climb, and having the humility to understand that I don't have all of the answers. So when you work on self, a lot of it also then relates practically that I do not like men, or I don't think that a real man should be one who doesn't continuously develop. So that bleeds into everything else, really. So I spoke about health, but really it begins with self. If you're unable to commit to the reading to figure out how to enter that CrossFit event, or to try TRX, or to try Hyrox, or to try whatever the fuck it is, then that tells me a little bit about your desire to develop. if you don't have the ability to separate someone being a bit of a fucking bastard with the way that they communicate and just listening to the message, look, bro, yeah, of course he said it in a way that you didn't appreciate, but just be a real fucking man and try and listen to the message. Is there any truth in what that person's saying? If people are continually getting pissy with you, if your wife is, and we'll talk about self in relation to everyone else, because there's also relationships, real men have the humility to help raise up the people around them. Real men have the humility to really listen to the people around them and to take the time to understand what it is that, for example, our family, our children, our loved ones actually want. Real men remain committed to the person that's with them. And we'll go on to talk about this because they do bleed into others. But it really begins with that approach to learning. I have a problem with men who aren't continuous lifelong learners in every area of their life. It pisses me off. People that think they're the finished article were people that just learn on the job, which is fine to a degree because we do that when it comes to every aspect of your life, which is health, self, wealth, and everyone else. What you think you're perfect in relationships, shame on you. What you think you're the finished article when it comes to health, shame on you. What you think because you had a record month that you can relax, okay, shame on you. So continuous personal and professional development when it comes to the self is what I think is a sign of a strong man. Someone who knows that they're not the finished article and just continuously commits to saying, yeah, I just want to get that bit better. And who's humble in their attitude and approach to it. But you see it and you know it. And you know the people because they're coming to you with the books that they read, or the things that they've discovered, or what else it is that they've learned. And there's not enough men of any age today that do that. They choose to only learn passively on the job through negative experience they have, but not proactively. And the development remains forever stunted because they at some point choose to stop learning when there's always stuff to learn. So that's the self, and it relates to all aspects of it: ego, self-esteem, anxiety, our ability to listen to others, to take feedback, to accept the criticism, to understand that there's further in the journey to go, to be kind to others and not to use your position or your perception of your position as a power to diminish the achievements of others. All of these things, this is self. These are evidence of strong men, people that fucking make stupid comments in groups to bring down others as a way of making themselves feel good, people that just do dumb shit like that, people that pick on others, as you know, all of the childhood playground bullshit that you do see that exists out there. So, oh wow, so that's how you get a kick by publicly like making fun out of others. Don't do that shit. Do it one-on-one with a person that you have that relationship with where there's a shared understanding, but don't be a fucking dickhead and do it in a group because there's someone bigger and badder than you will come and make you feel small. You'll see this with fucking black belt jiu-jitsu masters. The real professionals always remain humble and don't ever use their weapons because it's just ego and it's limited thinking. It's like, bro, you've got these weapons. You don't, have the presence of mind to know when it's appropriate to use it. Don't react to people's catcalls and to people's bullshit. You can control your own reactions, irrespective of the people around you. Be your own fucking standard. Be the flag holder. Be the flag bearer. Self. So for me, this is a big thing. And you'll immediately know it when people make these little snarky comments or side jokes or try and say something to try and be your fucking bro and to be like, oh my God, did you hear what he just said? Or to immediately comment about someone behind their fucking back and think, oh, so you're that kind of guy. I've known you for 5 minutes and already the other guy's walked out of the room and you're telling me about what a fucking like dickhead he is. You're that kind of guy. Got you, bro. Okay, cool. I see the kind of man you are. I see the kind of bitch you are, frankly, to be honest with you. So stuff like that really pisses me off as well. And I see it happen when people try and make comments to me about others as a means of trying to ingratiate themselves with me. All of this type of playground bullshit. I don't subscribe to it. Don't do it. Be better. Be much fucking better. So this is self. Okay? This is self. Now, wealth, we'll go on to wealth. I believe men should be in a position or have to find themselves or put themselves into a position where you can support the entire family. You need to operate in an environment where your wife and your children don't need to work to contribute towards the freedom that you desire. Now, you don't need to be there, but you need to aspire and put the work in to be there. Now, that might upset a lot of people, but I think that men should be able to provide. And in this, I'm in agreement again with Andrew Tate, not about some of his views upon women. And sometimes he says he's misconstrued and stuff like that. He said some horrible shit, in my view, that I find difficult to manage. But I do believe that all men should be able to provide. And I honestly think it's on you to figure it the fuck out. That's it. It's like very black and white for me. It's like, well, you're a man, you should be a provider, and you should figure out or make the sacrifices necessary to figure out how to get there. Whatever sacrifices you need to make. And of course, along the journey, there's sacrifices in that. Maybe your wife needs to support you at some periods because you're trying to figure it out. But I find it very difficult or challenging to meet a man without a plan, pardon the pun, no pun intended, when it comes to the financial future. How are you going to provide for your family? How are you going to provide for your kids to put them through school? Maybe you want to put them through private school. How are you going to provide for the fucking holidays that you know that your wife wants to have? How are you going to provide for the fucking Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night takeaway in the evening? Because maybe you're eating clean lunchtime and breakfast, but then, you know, you still love your wife. You still love your kids. You want to provide. How are you providing for that, bro? What is the plan? Don't blame the fucking market. Don't blame society. Don't blame economics. That's where we go back to relating to the self, right? Because that's where the continuous lifelong development comes in. Men need to financially provide. If you're unable to provide, you're failing your fucking family and you need to figure it out. So that's what I believe when it comes to wealth. So I, in the past, have shied away from sharing these views. And in sharing some of these views, I know that I'll alienate some of the people probably in my own family and some of my friends. But you know what? As time has changed and I've developed, I've changed and my standards have changed for what I think men should be aspiring to do. Now, I don't judge anyone who isn't there yet, but I judge everyone who isn't aspiring to improve in these areas of their life. And some of it, of course, is evidently visible when you see the young fat guy. And I think, unless you've got like a prescribed fucking medical condition that I can see from a doctor's note, and even then we need to look at it carefully, you need to fix that. It's on you, which is no one else, which is health. When it and we come to the, I see that there's one tree that I've missed in the garden. We spoke about health. We spoke about self. We spoke about wealth. And then we speak about everyone else. I believe that a real man needs to add value to every conversation and every person that they encounter in their lives, because that's evidence of being a provider. Being a provider isn't just fucking money. It's about being able to help lift and rise up the others around you by being inspirational or providing inspiration. But there should be a positive exchange value with everyone that you encounter. I believe that. I believe that. I think that you must go into a room and be able to add value. Obviously, you choose your rooms as your life accelerates. But to become a man of value, you need to become and provide value yourself. You need to add to the conversation. And you need to then, therefore, add the value that your wife seeks in her life. So that's financially providing. That's listening and being present when it counts. People talk about when you work fucking hard, that therefore your relationships suffer. It's just frankly bogus. No person in your life will require all your time, even much of your time, as long as you provide quality of time. When you're with me, be fucking with me. Don't be there. Don't be there. Don't be like looking at your fucking screen and shit while I'm across the dinner table from you. Leave your fucking phone at home, bro, and spend the evening with your wife. If you're with your kids, be fucking engaged with your kids. We went on holiday and I just saw this dude that was on his phone when his kid was running around. I wanted to smack that man around the face. I was like, bro, your kid's like 5 fucking years old. What are you doing? There's no excuses. There's no excuses from being present and being engaged when you're with people and from really listening, as well as, of course, providing the value. So both of these things need to happen. And where I think men often fail when it comes to how you handle your relationships and how you really listen and whether you pay attention. And don't get me wrong, I've been guilty of some of these things at times, and I learn from my wife. One of the things that Daniela does, which I've had to learn from her, is that she has a habit of anyone who's important in her life. She does that thing that you read about and how to win friends and fucking influence people. She makes notes on her phone of stuff that people say, and then 4 fucking months later, she'll buy them a present about something they said 4 months ago. And I was like, whoa, this is like fucking magic. How'd you do that? She was like, well, I just write it down. I hear it, and then at the end of the day, I'll just like make my little notes. And then when it comes to something that's coming up for their birthday or for their anniversary, I fucking go back and review my notes, and then I pull it out. And she, through that simple process, delivers a high level of value to everyone else when it comes to presence in her entire network. And I was like, wow, I don't do that. That's not that fucking hard. Deepak, don't be a bitch. Do that. This is one amongst many practical examples of how to raise your fucking standard. So, you know, if so, and it's 80% of it for being a strong man is active listening. If someone's banging on about something, buy them a CrossFit fucking personal trainer session for a birthday present. Be like, oh, bro, you've been thinking about it. I just thought I'd buy you this. Obviously, it relates to your wife and to your children. And again, part of this can also, and self is the most important part. If you don't know what that really means, then read about relationships. Read about how to improve the quality of the relationships that you're part of and that you're in. That has transformed my life with Daniela because I had to read the books to help me reach new levels. I'll be honest, I'm a British Indian and I married an Italian. I read books on sex. I read books on romance. I read books on intimacy. I've read all of them. And it helped me become fucking masterful because the intent was there, but the education wasn't. All I was doing was listening to fucking dickheads around me who they weren't experts. I mean, they've not written the book. They've not even fucking read the book. They're like, I just think you should do this, bro. And then I'll read something on HubSpot or whatever, the romance equivalent of HubSpot, which is written by some 22-year-old dickhead who hasn't done it either. So to be a strong man and to increase your quality of relationships, you need to provide value to begin with, and then value will come back to you. And the way that I've done that is by having the humility in self to understand that there's things that I need to learn to have the quality of relationships that I want to have. And I don't know the way necessarily, so let me read. And let me see if that will help me. And of course, let me find mentors. And that is the bucket that relates to everyone else, which is how can I provide great value? I need to build value in my own mind first. And I want to have a great quality of relationships in my life. And to do that, don't be fucking naive. Educate yourself. That's it. And these are, if you're listening, if you're that person, I would love to be your friend. But have those standards in your life. Live those standards for yourself, and you will attract people that have similar standards, and you'll begin to see that the people that you desire to be around will have those kinds of standards, and the relationships that you keep will over time change because your desire for the bullshit will change with it. And these are my tenets for what I think in today's age a real man should be.